We are all impressed by Japanese post-war success thanks to America's military protection umbrella. But it's no longer the choice. North Korea's nuclear ambitions and China's increasingly aggressive activities with more than 3,000 active aircraft create pressures on Japanese defenses. So it's the right time to show off the country's full military potential and present the world's best sixth-generation fighter that would outperform the U.S. F-35 and keep China's Air Force at bay. Japan has already demonstrated very advanced capabilities in many relevant fields of research and development, including world-leading composite material and radar technologies. The country was the first to deploy a fighter with an AESA radar, the F-2, and the first to deploy an air-to-air missile guided by such radars, something the United States and Russia both have yet to achieve. And recently, Japan unveiled a flight prototype for a sixth-generation fighter called FX, or sometimes dubbed the F-3. What's known about the new aircraft capabilities comes from the new defense minister, Taro Kono, who emphasized that the new aircraft to be stealthy, network-centric, and would carry more missiles than the F-35. The FX is planned to be a generation ahead of the F-35 and a solid rival for Chinese and Russian stealth fighters. While the core design, including airframe and engine, has already been finalized, we'll see the prototype in 2024 and the first flight in 2028. The FX aircraft will enter serial production in 2031 and transfer 90 advanced stealth fighters to the Japanese Air Force mid-2030s, right around the time that the F-2 jet is due to be phased out. This fighter won't be an affordable one, as the cost per plane could easily exceed 20 billion yen or $179 million. While the overall FX program is expected to cost Japan another $45 billion. Additionally, Japan signed a contract with Lockheed Martin valued at around $23 billion for purchasing around 200 F-35s. It remains to be seen if Japan's defense sector can juggle two costly procurements simultaneously. But there's still a few central questions like, for what does Japan need an expensive FX fighter fleet and additional 2 squadrons of imported F-35s for? And what characteristics will make the FX the best of all sixth-generation fighters? Let's start with the last. As we know, Japan has produced a number of American fighters under license domestically, notably including the F-4E Phantom, the F-15 Eagle, the F-16 Fighting Falcon, and heavily modified form as the Mitsubishi F-2 and F-35A Lightning II. All of these aircraft are currently in service in the country's Air Force, and all except the F-35 have significant modifications which distinguish them from the American originals. Despite its formidable technological base, Japan notably has not put in indigenous fighter design for air-to-air combat into production since World War II, meaning the upcoming sixth-generation jet will be its first. For decades, Japan has sought a high-end sixth-generation fighter with capabilities for air-to-air combat exceeding the F-35, Chinese J-20, Russian Su-27 fighters. The country initially particularly regarding sensor and networked warfare technologies, which are prominent in Grumman's Super Hornet jets, E-2D Advanced Hawkeye airborne early warning and control planes, and the F-35's distributed aperture system multi-sensor. Mitsubishi Electric will focus on mission systems and electronic warfare capabilities, particularly self-defense jamming. Japan has also researched high-speed data link tech called Integrated Fire Control for fighters that could allow Japanese and possibly U.S. fighters to pull together their sensor and missile targeting capabilities, enhancing the accuracy of beyond visual range missiles. Meanwhile, IHI Corporation has been testing the jet's XF-91 low bypass turbofan engine since 2018. These incorporate exotic materials to reduce size and increase heat tolerance to 1800 degrees Celsius. The XF-91 produces up to 12 U.S. tons of thrust, or up to 16.5 tons with afterburners, slightly less than the F-119 engines on an F-22 Raptor. However, the XF-91s are slimmer and each generates 180 kilowatts of energy, cumulatively more than any U.S. fighter. Japan has also been testing thrust vectoring nozzles for the XF-91, which could allow extremely tight maneuvers. Besides, the US F-22 and Russian Su-30 and Su-35 jets feature thrust vectoring, and China has been testing thrust vectoring engines on its J-10 and J-20 fighters. Electronics manufacturers Toshiba and the Fujitsu Group will take the lead in developing the FX's gallium nitrate ACER radar, which can also be powered up for use as a microwave weapon against incoming missiles. The radar will be supplemented by an infrared sensor and an electromagnetic sensor, an ESM. Subaru will develop FX landing systems. Though better known as an automobile manufacturer, Subaru's aerospace division builds wings and landing gear components for the Boeing 777 airliner. So Japanese FX will definitely be one of the most powerful sixth-generation fighter jets. But it's interesting that while building a new fighter, Japan is buying from Lockheed Martin 2 squadrons of F-35B stealth jump jets and F-35As for $23 billion. Combined with billions of investments for the FX program, it's an enormous budget. But here's a reasonable explanation for such an insane investment. To be clear, Japan has lots of outlying bases on islands, which would be awfully exposed if China attacked. The F-35Bs will not only fly from the Japanese Navy's new light aircraft carriers, but they can also fly from small island airstrips, helping to extend Japan's air power across the East China Sea all the way to the edge of Taiwan's airspace. The single-engine F-35B features a novel propulsion system that combines a swiveling engine nozzle with a downward blasting lift fan. Together, this gear allows the 18-ton fighter to take off after a short takeoff run of fewer than 500 feet. That's why so many countries that operate small aircraft carriers lacking catapults are acquiring the F-35B for shipboard use. But the same short takeoff capability also is helpful on land. An F-35B, in theory, could operate from short runways on far-flung islands. The F-35Bs will fly from the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force's 2 814-foot-long light carriers, the Zumo and Kaga. When not at sea, the jump jets could disperse across small airstrips in the Okinawa and Sakishima island groups. However, the F-35 is a complex, maintenance-intensive machine, and its island airfields would require substantial manpower and support equipment. So the new fighter jet will be awaited for such defense missions too. And that's all the time we have for today's video. Please give this video a like if you learned something new, and make sure you subscribe so you never miss another video from Military News. We'll see you next time.